At Path of Faith, we invite you to explore the depths of your soul and unlock the secrets of spiritual enlightenment as we journey together towards a deeper understanding of God's love. You ask God is not happening, it's because you still don't have enough competence to do your part. Have you performed that sometimes we ask God to make us patient? There are some things that I don't have been asking for anymore, see? What he does, he sends the situation. In the morning, suddenly do there, my Jesus. Helps me to be patient. Okay. Half an hour later comes that. Yeah, you understand everything. That poet tea, as it says there in Minas. A person, when he is too sick, we call a poet tea. Have you ever taken poet tea? One of the worst things you have in the world, people. Bad. Isn't it, Donna Anna? Too bad, painting tea. So, when you have that Duda tea that measures a meter and just by your side, talking spun in your head, pissing you, talking and talking, taking your peace. So you remember that you prayed in the morning asking for the morning God, who gave you patience. Hey, Jesus makes me patient, but she doesn't want to be bothered. Wow, how will you get patient if you do not go through the experience of finding a boring halfway and having patience with boring? Then ask God, my Jesus, make me generous, right? But then you start bumping into the poor all the time. Hey, could you help me here? Sometimes you don't even it's not financially. Hey. It helps me solve this problem there. Oh, now I can't. I don't have time. But in the morning he asked to be generous, to have a good heart. Yeah, the jacket that my mother taught us when she was little. Sacred Heart of Jesus. Make our heart similar to yours. Be careful. See, when you pray, beware of what you ask for God, because he does, and sometimes it doesn't happen. It's because you haven't had the courage to put your part in history yet. And it really does work, guys. Prayer is via, come and go. God does not do everything for us. No. There are things that only God can do, and there are things that only we can accomplish. And he won't be getting into what is ours. The responsibility I have in the face of what I ask is mine. Sir, kill my hunger. Don't let me starve. Then he gives you health for you to work. Lord, don't let me die sick. It gives you health, but now it will take care. Sir, make me patient. He gives you a boring of Welvery for you to be patient with him and exercise. Lord, make me generous. He will put a lot of poor people in need of your side, and you will have to react in front of what you prayed. So God does when we don't ask. He does. Do you do when we ask? Do it, too. Only there is a detail. In everything he does, without we ask, or when we ask, he will ask us another part of what we prayed. If we asked him, you can be sure that he will also ask us something. The church invites us to live in this strong time of conversion. What is the specific of our Christian life? Our union, our connection to Jesus. The more Jesus lives in us, the greater our condition of being a Christian. This presence of God in history is through us. We know that it is our excesses that often prevent us from turning into true Christians. It is the excesses of life that are part of us. There is an interesting mystique that is for us to live in Lent, which is the mystique of sacrifice, fasting, prayer. When the church proposes to fasting, prayer, sacrifice, another thing she doesn't want to, but give us the opportunity to throw away a little of our excesses. Everyone knows what a trip with many bags is, how we get tired of loading so much baggage. Sometimes in life, the same thing happens. We are getting heavy as we live. We will be excess and from time to time the sacrifice. Fasting, prayer signals us to what we need to leave. The sacrifice for himself has no meaning. He is always in view of a greater good. Today's restriction teaches me a discipline that is necessary for the Christian life. Discipline is a word we stop living many times. We don't want much discipline. Why? Because discipline will demand from us. If you commit to having a regularity, for example, if you commit to sleeping a little earlier, you will see that you will have to make sacrifice. Because we are too stimulated for us to stay up late. And the discipline of sleeping early, she is too good for the heart. She is too good for her health. You will have a healthier heart. Doctors teach us that many heart problems are directly linked to lack of sleep. Stress, depression are often born in an irregular way of living. You see that in Lent, we exercise in the sacrifice, but it should accompany our whole life. And the Church is wise when it proposes to us these rules. This interesting way of cutting the excesses. Lent is time to throw away some of our excesses, throw away a little of what is weighing us. I remember that we always had the habit when it was over the year. When we were going to change the series, that we took the old books, which were no longer used in school. We always managed to pass it all forward. Someone will need it. And my mother always taught us that. This book you no longer need, so pass to those you need so that the new one can arrive. Because otherwise we have no space in the backpack. There is no space in the luggage for so much, is it true? Many times in our spiritual life, the same thing happens. We stop receiving the news is because we insist on keeping our feet in that is old. Behavior is the same thing. If we need to have a new stance in the face of life, we need to find a way to throw away that old stance, because otherwise the new will not prevail. And the Church teaches us that we have a whole instrumental of Christian life to help us cut these excesses. The Eucharist, the real presence of Jesus, the opportunity we have to configure ourselves to Christ. Upon receiving the Eucharist in me, I make myself what I receive. This is beautiful. Jesus is alive in my heart every time I approach the altar of sacrifice. Confession, when I throw my sins out, when I tell the priest the sins, my weights and I get the acquittal. I am receiving a new birth certificate. It is as if God has given me the opportunity to be born again. All my sins are acquitted, and there I get a new life opportunity. Prayer, either through the Word, or through traditional prayers, or through spontaneous prayer, are connections that I can live with the heart of God. I am very motivated to talk about it. We are increasingly leaving God's Word aside. It is not often part of our lives. Our life is busy. We no longer have that time to stop, to reflect the gospel of the day. I remember that at my beginning of walking, this was a habit I like to have every morning. Meditate the gospel of day. It does not mean the meditation of the Mass, that moment of Mass. No. A moment apart. Usually when we go to Mass, we already have to be in the mood of the gospel of the day. Guys, it costs nothing. Sometimes 2 minutes are enough for us to read the gospel. In the morning, just when we woke up, to take knowledge with the Word that the Church elected to guide all Christians worldwide. By reading the gospel of the day, you are in communion with the whole Church of the world. The same gospel that is being pronounced here, which is being proclaimed here, is being proclaimed in Europe, Asia. We are in communion. And this Word of God is a reference for my transformation. What is our conversion model? It is Jesus. Jesus is our human reference. This is where we pay attention. We want to have a heart similar to His, and the best way to know it is through the Word. All the preaching of the Church revolves around the Word. We announce Jesus alive and risen. And one of the places where we have this resurrection, this living presence, is the Word. Then you will see that during Lent, you can intensify. It does not mean that it is only in Lent. In Lent, we intensify these opportunities that God has to enter our lives, to act in our hearts, to change our way of being. You can be sure that a lot will get better in your life as you allow God be it in you. You can see, my people, usually our sufferings are born from regions of our lives and our hearts where God is absent. Because if God does not fill the space, we will find a way to fill with what is human, with what is fragile. And usually what is human and fragile does not support us for a long time. Now, what is human and fragile but is under God's command, this will last. Why? The blessing and grace of God sustains us at this time. I keep having all the sins of the world, all the limits of the world, you too. But the certainty that we don't lose ourselves to God, and Lent is this special time that the Church calls us, opens our eyes to what we are leaving aside. And it is always good for us to become aware of what we are forgetting our Christian life so that we can resume. To resume these commitments to God is to give Him the opportunity to continue acting and working on us, remembering that what I say to you is for me too. I'm not giving ready-made magic formulas, no. Everything we preach, everything we say here, from the lives, we are all in this same boat, and we need to put this boat on the high sea, because this is how God wants us, sailing to increasingly deep water spheres. Father Fábio, does God act without people asking? Interesting the question, right? Because this question is quite comprehensive. It revolves around several important issues that we need to be clear in our Christian life. Can you, who are a parent, help me answer? When you love the child you have and you realize that he is facing a need, do you expect the child to ask, how does your heart work? Particularly whenever I have someone on my side that is in need of something, I don't expect to ask. Because sometimes the person has a damned difficulty to ask. When it comes to prayer, God answers us all of the time because God has no variations of will. My people, this is very interesting. Sometimes the way we pray, to be asking God for things, gives us the impression that God is an expiration old man, that He does not know the needs of the world. So we have to insist on Him. Prayer is not that. Prayer has no meaning when we believe that God is an old caduc and that I keep showing Him what is good in the world, what needs to be done. Of course, we have the right to ask, but God no longer meets, no less when we ask or not. The request, it cherishes the heart. But what does prayer to have effectiveness, resolution, say, the solution of the problem I present to God? It only happens when the grace of God, which is always a desire for the human being to be happy, to meet a human being that truly wants to be happy. Ask God to protect. For example, I ask God to protect me every day, but I look at both sides of the street before crossing Idaho. So the request I make is directly combined with a responsibility that I have to look at both sides, not to expose my life at risk of not doing anything that is dangerous against my life. Now, the big problem, my dear, is when we believe that God obeys our orders. I particularly have a lot, but very afraid of this kind of prayer. We determine, we do. No, we have not determined anything. We ask, whether it will happen or not will be the result of what God has already given us with the encounter of the human willow. Even because the way of praying, it can generate atheism. If I ask, for example, so that God will end the hunger in Simaria, but I do nothing to end hunger in Simaria, God is demoralized. Because how can God exterminate the hunger of a people, if not by the mobilization of the people, or those rulers who are responsible for creating a more decent and more humane life for that country? God is demoralized because we make our request, but we don't do our part. So, does God do without us? He does. God is always attentive to human need. We ask is why it is good to formulate what we need. But when formulating what we need, we cannot have that feeling that we are giving God's orders. No one has the authority to give orders to God. What we do, guys, is through a human attitude to determine that God's goodness will find place in our hearts. It's that old story of the Good Samaritan. That man is fallen, all injured, and God is there on his side, hoping someone to do. God has no way to collect the patient from the ground. God can give health, But that attitude of collecting the patient from the ground, it has to be human. Pass a priest, pretend he didn't see it. Pass a Levite, pretend he didn't see it. Until a Samaritan passes. He passes a Samaritan. He shakes himself. And he does what God wanted the priest to do the Levite to do. But that no one did then. It is interesting that the owner of the pension also plays a key role in solving the problem of the one that is fallen. The other day I was listening to a teacher saying, a teacher of philosophy, that the amount he leaves to pay is nothing close to what would truly cost to take care of that patient. So that with the Samaritan, he does a charity. But the owner of the pension is also, because the owner of the pension is that he will take care of that boy who is fallen there. So you see, it's no use kneeling on the sick side talking. Hey, my God heals the disease of this creature. If I don't get it, I don't take to the doctor. So asking is not enough. There is an action, an unfolding that is born from the request I make. Each time we profess faith in the providence of God, we are also professing faith in human responsibility. And sometimes the prayer we listen gives us the impression that God is an old cachectic who knows nothing more in life. We talk, oh my God, this woman is so good, Jesus. Heals her heart. Heals her from this disease. As if Jesus did not know that she is a good person. As if I knew God. So we have to ask, because it's good for our hearts. But the moment we ask, we have to commit to the part of the miracle that only we can do. So my request, he is more honest as I make what I ask for. Do my part. It's how you go to your dad your car borrowed, but we hope at least you know how to drive. What good is your father to lend the car if you are not going to drive, if you have no competence to drive the car? So beware of what you ask for God, because sometimes what? First thing, guys, we have to be aware that each person God works in a way. There are works that the artist ends quickly, and there are works that the artist takes a little more. The making of a work is done all the time of drafts. You are often worried about your final text. Many times we evaluate the final text in the other's life, is what we can see as a result. Calm. Much more interesting than the final text is the draft. It is the way through which the author came to that result. When you see a ready work, if you think that text you read was several times broadly, isn't it? Do you write? How many times do you make observations in your text? You change a word. And in each modification, I can tell you for what I write. In each modification you make, a new text is conceived. So that within a work there are numerous possibilities of other works. Conversion, my people, is a process of making that takes time. God is not concerned about the time he will take to do the work. He wants quality. And we need to get out of this magical view that a camp will change our lives, that a mass will change our lives, of confession will change our life radically. No. There are no magical changes in Christianity. And any religion that wants to be honest, it will sue the person in the conversion process. What is it to enter a process? It is you to live the daily life of a reality that is gradually materialized. So what God does in us through a camp is, perhaps, to help us fix a phrase that is wrong. But the sentence is not the text. It is part of the text. But we listen, and nothing happens inside us. It's a lie. There are words, my people, that take time to flourish within us, just as a seed takes time so that it can turn, becoming a fruitful reality. And often people give up on the conversion process is because they want an immediate result. But this immediate result does not happen, nor is it good that it comes. I am very afraid of these conversions that change radically. The person does not look even more. He does not talk to anyone else. Have to be careful. Because conversion is true, as it leads us to the awareness that God is changing us, and changing in the details. We have to be aware of all the drafts of our lives, because often the fate of our life depends on that drafting. The fate of the text depends on that draft. And conversion is that you scratch a new life all the time. You may not yet be ready for the definitive text. It may be that a lot will still have to happen. No problem with it. We just need to have historical patience with our conversion process and with the process of who is on our side. So it's no use you think your child will leave drugs just because you hospitalized you in a drug addiction clinic. No. Highlighting it is just the beginning of a process that will take time. It's no use removing the drug from your child's pocket. You have to get out of it. Taking off your pocket is very easy. Removing the drugs from the pockets and throwing it in the trash is very easy. Now, remove it from the dependence on work. But we only remove dependence, this vicious reality, whatever it may be, from the moment we exercise in the process of daily discipline. And Geisa conversion, it is all the time to take possession of the discipline to be lived. Christian is not born of Caesarean section, I said that here. I played, why? Compared to delivery, Caesarean section is a doctor who cuts the belly and removes the child. The child has no work to be born. Now, in normal delivery, it is suffering for the mother. It is suffering for the doctor. It is suffering for the child. For this new paschal life, the Christian is not born of Caesarean section. No, our delivery is always painful. Our birth is always procedural. It will slowly. But when we are born, the mother gets much more health than when she does the Caesarean section. It's not like this. I don't know that it has already given birth. Normal delivery is much healthier in a woman's life. Clear? Why? For us too, the process is like this. Many times we insist on our conversion through Caesarean section. Cut the belly. Tear. No, it's not like that. It is the process that makes a difference. And all the time we are in process. These disorders are your adequacy process. When are you in disorder? When you are inappropriate. I don't want to live like that anymore, but I don't know how to live in a new way either. So, I'm inappropriate. Then you are looking for a balance. It's just like I remember when I converted, because my conversion was very late. I was already in the seminary. But my choice for Jesus himself, my choice for my religious life, as a priest, was not a priest yet. I remember that I was an absolutely boring and unpleasant person. Why? I had lost my mercy. I had lost my humanity. And Leo himself spoke to me like that, my son. Religion is doing you bad. Beware, you are less friends with your friends because of God. You are less patient with sinners. It can't be that way. If you want to be a truly good priest, you will have to be patient with your limits. But since I am not a patient, I was not a patient with my limits at that time. I judged my projection to others. So I had no patience with others, because I saw in others what I didn't like to see in me. So when I assume my limits and take it to them, I'm starting to adapt. I'm starting to live this process of overcoming inadequacies. And conversion is that. When you look at the earth that was sown and don't see the seed sprouting, we run the temptation to think that it didn't work out, because our vision is always very pessimistic. Oh, that there happens nothing, I've seen it. No, calm down. The seed has its time to bear fruit. And the camp can be a quick rain on the seed we are. The camp can be a longer rain on us, no matter the time. What matters is the process. I would like to hear your opinion about true friendship. Who can we discover a true friendship with? Look how beautiful saying that. What is the true friend, right? I have always believed that in life, from a very young age, that there are people in our history that they are so fundamental, that we can no longer say the name without remembering her name. We identify the true, the essential people in our lives are like this. At the moment of a lot of joy, or the moment of great sadness. These are these two extremes that are able to reveal to us who we really love. When you are too happy, those people you would like to have by your side, to see the same things you are seeing. When you are too sad, what people you would like who was holding there in his hand. Then you identify your true friends. Now, why did they stay? It's a mystery. We never know how to say why that person became friends with us. Perhaps because she had a greater sensitivity than others did not have. Maybe because they looked at us in a more perfected way. They had more patience with us. They were calmer. It's not like this. The friends who will be for the rest of their lives. They are the ones you know. Guys, he's boring. He's sick. But I know that when I need him, he's by my side. No people like that. Just for that reason, we support the defects of others. Because we know that even if I'm in misery, he won't leave me. Even if I lose everything I have. This is love. There are no conditions. I'm not afraid that the other will not receive me. I'm not afraid that the other will treat me the same way I treated him. I'm not afraid that the other will have resistance to me. No. The love I know he has for me gives me the courage to call in the middle of the night and say, I need you now, even if you didn't have the opportunity to have me by your side the moment you need it. This is the relationship we have with Jesus, right? When you have the courage to knock on his door the moment you don't deserve to be. When you have the courage to call in the moment you wouldn't deserve to call it. This is a real friend. That's when it doesn't depend on time. How many times have I called you? How many times I went after? No. The lace that remains, which is independent of time. Because sometimes in the rush of our lives, sometimes you don't have that time to cultivate. But you know it is there. I have a friend of mine, Marina, that every time I left, I even get emotional, when I remember that. Because the moments when she told me that was not easy. She always told me at times when my life was being difficult. Each time I took my car, which in my mother's apartment had no garage, I would leave the car at her house. It was the last sentence I listened to every time I was leaving. She at the gate. She looked at me and said like this, I'm here, see? Marina? She was not part of my day-to-day. She's not there in my side in Taubaté. She lives in Formiga. But for me, that phrase gained such a big meaning, guys. Because every time I remember the need to have someone by my side, I remember this sentence, I'm here, see? That is, I do not make a shortage. I do not create much noise. I do not give much news. But I am here. The time it will pass, things will be different. It may be that I have no opportunity to be there. It may be that I have no opportunity to arrive on time. But be aware that I am here. And how does this phrase have the power to reverberate who is loved? Perhaps those who love and don't even know how much it reverberates. Because experimenting with mercy on the strong side, I don't know if it has much advantage. I want to see us know how to try mercy on the weak side. When you need to be beloved, when you need to be helped, when you need to be the one who leaves the place to ask for help. And then at this time, at this moment, you know that things can be resolved with that presence that you know does not change. It's there, someone who assures him to be there. I am here. I would like to end in a different way. Who knows, right? I never had the opportunity. I don't know what the possibility I have to be in your life. I don't know how I can be in your life. It may be that in a concrete way you may know me. It may be. I don't know. It may be just for the program. It may be by email. I would also like to be able to tell you, moved by the force of a gospel that I believe, it may be marginalized. It may not even like a priest, but like what I say. I would like to continue to be here. Just that. And be able to say for you, I'm here. I am here to pay the price I know I need to pay so I can exercise my ministry the way I exercise to keep fighting for what I believe. to be the human being, and that alone, the human being who suddenly want to make a difference in the world, seeking the marginalized of our time. Maybe relieving us, and maybe you also find that too. How many people could you say this today? What happens in your life happens. I am here. You know that sometimes we need not have to know how important what we have is. It's not like this. Do you not have the experience of not having to find out? Having a period of absence to discover a value? I'm increasingly convinced that Christianity is all the time a proposal to reflect on life, of existence, in the light of the person of Jesus. That's why we need to know Jesus. Because the more we know Jesus, the more we find out who we should be. It is looking at Jesus. It is knowing his word, knowing his way of acting, his way of being, that we will weaving our daily booklet of conversion. Do you remember when you were a boy or girl and that you started learning? When you started having the first lessons at school? Didn't you have a primer? What was the booklet? The booklet was a process reference that you needed to live to learn. And so, there in the first classes you received your lessons, and you had that booklet like a road that would make you come to some places. The booklet, I remember mine. I can even remember the picture on the cover. It was called A Soft Way. Smooth had nothing. It's time to learn. Another booklet I had too. What was the importance of this booklet? Help us have a reference so that we could grow, so that we could evolve, so that we could move forward. Well, Christianity is also a proposal to be a growth booklet. You know, my people, I get intrigued all the time with this issue. How much we need to grow as people. How hard it is to live. Adelia Prado, my favorite poet, which you already know, I have spoken so many times, she talks about this human dilemma. It is no joke being human. Human being takes a lot of work. Human being is painful. It is very painful to be who we are. Deal with our question. You know that very well. You know it's not because you read in books. It's not because you feel in your flesh every day of your life. How much you have to fight for your questions. You know that in this time of absence of the program, what caught my attention the most, the numerous welcome complaints we received, was just that. This question caught my attention. Hey, priest, the program helps us think of our lives, so you have to go back soon. And I'm happy to know that I can be a little point there inside your booklet. How are we going to know the way of being and living of Jesus if we do not know the person of Jesus? This is why we need us to dive into the mystery of Christ, so that we also have the possibility of transforming our hearts, to be able to advance this knowledge of Jesus, but above all, to incorporate it into our lives. That's why I get back to the phrase that I like. The more to know Jesus, much more I find out who I should be. It is the frame of our human truth. Looking at Jesus is to find out what we need to do to be different, for us to be better. What do you need to change in your heart so that you are a better person? Everyone has a heart corner that needs reforms. Wasn't it like that with our scenario? He started to plummet gradually. It was serious. He gradually plummeted, right? One day it broke a little piece. Not this, right? That this is all beautiful, because it is all new. One day he broke a little piece of a pillar. One day it broke a little piece of the table. I remember that we had a day we couldn't sit down. The chair was a little crooked. And so, things get older. That cow armchair that was beautiful at the beginning, then it was a horrendous thing, right? It was so. That cow changed a lot here on the scene. It was a long time that she stayed here. But you see, there was a time when we found out it was no longer functional. This is the time of the reform. Have you noticed that the same thing happens to us? That every now and then we also defect? We give some ingots from time to time. And if we don't fix it, I remember, the scenario was getting old slowly. And we were seeing his aging. But we were busy with so many things. And Canção Nova has so much demand that we ended up not making the reformal we needed to do. so that it would not fall so much. And that's what happens to us. Many times we will also spoil a small detail. And if we don't fix the small detail that is damaged, then you get an entirely damaged piece. Then no one handles it. And that's the big problem. Because I have no way to talk like that. Oh, we're going to throw you out and we will do it. It is from what we can change, what we can transform. And I believe it. It is in this anthropology that I decided to believe. I believe in Jesus' proposal. The human being has a way. You can even have a moment of discouragement, thinking, oh, I won't have a way. Yes, he has. Discover the little piece of your heart, your personality, which can be modified and not be afraid of the struggle. Work so that this is impaired and fragile in you to be fixed. We believe in this possibility. But what is our reference for us to fix? Because sometimes in an attempt to fix, we get worse. Look at Jesus. It is therefore, my people, that our word here has no meaning if it is detached from Jesus. Because when you turn off the television, when this light goes out, this new and beautiful scenario is no longer before your eyes. It's you and Jesus. Here the program can even help you discover what may be different in you. But the builder is Jesus. It is he who will help you in this reform. It is he who will work all the changes that his heart needs. And you know it's very good for us to think it's he who does. Because he loves us. And who loves us reforming us the right way. And our proposal remains the same. Help in the process of inner reform, the inner restoration of all people who are linked to us. God gives us wings all the time so we can go beyond and get out of the commonplace. In fact, human growth is always an experience of leaving a common place to reach the one we still do not know. Yes, human adventure consists in daily we brave what we are, to brave who we are. The one who discovers the value of self-knowledge and identifies what are the tools of everyday life that may favor self-knowledge. Then we have a quality life, because a life can only have quality as it is reflected. You can see we live badly when it does not reflect a life that lives. Because we lack that time, that extremely positive experience of evaluating what is living. Self-dominion is not an achievement that we reach overnight, only in the daily effort of us investigating who we are, to go to the bottom of all that we still do not know of ourselves, because it fights better with the one who knows each other. There is always a risk, my people, we make a game contrary to what we need to do. It's the famous boycott, which sometimes I make myself, you do it, without us. We are tangling. We come into an extremely unfavorable life context of life. Yes, searching the heights is to achieve the best life can offer us. But these heights we can only achieve after descending all the undergrounds of our being. It only reaches the heights who had the courage to come down in the underground of being. There where you will know yourself in depth. Discover your system. How does your system work? How does your body work? Yes, because we are different. I'm sure as I'm talking about, you are thinking about your life. How do you miss this? Very. We are postmodern. We are within a context where communication is very easy. We talk to each other with a great speed. We move much faster. These are achievements, of course, values. But they also cause damage to us. Because we are less and less affected. Less likely to the experience of emptiness. That is not that unpleasant emptiness that can generate depression. For example, acute suffering. No, it is emptiness. When we experience it, it is that void that gives us a stillness. Because we are not filling us any of what is outdoor. Then you deal with your loneliness. It is concerned with your loneliness. It is always a risk for us to die unknown to ourselves. Because the process of self-knowledge, it is confused with spiritual maturity. It's the same thing. If you will see the lives of the saints, they have advanced in the spiritual life and in the life of holiness, as they had mastery of themselves. Although we are human, we have different constitutions. I need to dive into the underground of my being so I can know my status. Dive into the underground of your being to gain access to your statute. Statute is like our operating manual. But human life, if we do not read this status, which is personal, transferable. Have you ever stopped to think that sometimes you don't make an assessment of the life you live in? It lives without thinking. It enters the hallucinating pace that life has, which is proper to our day, and has no right to stop to problematize. I said, sometimes we have no idea how a word said we can cause good, how a word can trigger peace, reconciliation. Suddenly a person you offended, which you hurt, a request for forgiveness you send through WhatsApp. Oh, look, forgive me. I made a mistake. This has a power we cannot disregard, this power of the word. This is our Christian vocation, my people. All the time I need to deal with Adam who hosts me. He is staying in me, and he hosts me too. I'm staying in it. It's my fragile condition that I can't afford it. But on the other hand, I have a Christ vocation. Christ calls me daily to overcome the limits of the Adam that is in me. That I can live this human achievement, which is nothing but the balance between possibilities and limits. This balance that makes us able to dive into our underground and at the same time reach the heights of our vocation.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey at Path of Faith. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content like this.